welcome. Thank you so much, Sunny, for your kind words and lovely introduction. Thank you to Roberta and the rest of our Solace team for making everything possible. But primarily, thank you. Thank you all for attending today. Um, Without you all here, this would just be me looking into my webcam, ranting and raving about visual branding, which really is a deep passion of mine. But I also would like to thank you for the work that you do. I know that this seminar is specifically catered to people who do good within their own communities or furthering others' missions or serving other amazing people. So thank you for the work that you do. I hope that following this conversation, you can walk away with some very real applications for your own visual identity, but also just a deeper appreciation and understanding of what goes into brand identity and a successful strategic process. Do you feel empowered by your branding? It's far too often that I go to a networking event, um, tell others that I'm a designer, and they promptly retract their business card. I've had people tell me not to follow the link to their website because it's either under construction or not up to their standards. And that's unfortunate. I think it's really sad. Um, if you're not that confident with your visual branding in front of a designer, I'm sure that it might not be up to snuff for your core demographic, whether this looks like donors, clients, customers, really anyone looking at your forward-facing imagery. Now, getting a little into it, what is branding? For me, branding is the strategic process and presentation of an organization's purpose to their audience. And I would like to highlight a few key terms here: strategic process, uh, as well as purpose and audience. With Solace Media and our process, it's all about presenting an organization's purpose, why they stand out within their industry, uh, specifically for their core demographic. This means catering your visual components to whoever's going to be looking at them and whoever will be most strongly impacted by them. But also, there's a lot of strategy that goes into it through identifying this demographic, through identifying the way that they operate and where visual branding comes into it. But at this point, you might be asking yourself, why should I care? And that's a very good question. No matter the value of your work, low quality visuals and inconsistent branding will turn your audience away. This isn't everyone. I'm sure that there have been many successful companies who don't have the best visual identity, who still do amazing work and do it widespread. I know within our organization, we're constantly trying to innovate, trying to look better and improve our branding. But if it's not something that you're on top of, um, people will turn away. They will choose your competition. In this day and age of everyone having a smartphone, supercomputer in their pockets, everything is optimized for UI and UX. And we feel that the good work that you all do should be demonstrated with authority, with respect, and with stunning visuals. Speaking of stunning visuals, this is CTF Illinois. They're a wonderful partner of Solace Media. They seek to empower their clients through through programs, through resources. They work with people who have intellectual or developmental disabilities, and they're on a mission of empowerment. A successful client for them looks like a person who's able to live a meaningful life and who's able to live an independent life. We demonstrated this incredible value through a lead generator that will very soon be featured on their website. We have a website that is optimized and responsive for mobile. We do have very nice business cards that I believe recently went to print, and a brand new logo that clearly demonstrates their value and what they do. CTF Illinois now has a new welcome mat, but this is their old welcome mat. This is the previous face of their organization. This is their front facing, and oftentimes the first thing that their clientele or audience would look at. The reason I say welcome mat, I oftentimes use this in conversation when discussing branding. The reason is that it serves the purpose of the face of an organization and provides a bit of an opportunity for engagement. It's the first thing that you'll see. And what we wanted to hit with CTF Illinois is setting themselves apart through their new welcome mat. These silhouette human figures are pretty common within the nonprofit industry, beginning in the early 2000s. And there are other organizations, even partners of CTF Illinois, that use some of the same imagery. So the primary function of their new logo and the primary challenge that we sought to address was to help them stand out visually. We did so through changing the colors, reducing the number of people featured in their main logo mark, and overall just making it a little more welcoming, a little more playful without being patronizing. You'll note some changes on these corners. We smoothed everything out to make it a little more welcoming. We toned down the maroon color, went with something not childish, but really welcoming, this nice salmon color. And this brings us to secondary graphics. An effective visual identity elaborates upon the logo and tells a visual story involving tone and personality that speaks to your core demographic. For me, this is one of the best uses of consistency within their visual identity. They use elements of the main logo to tie into their imagery. Marianne, if you designed this, I'm very proud of you for your use of secondary graphics here. But unfortunately, not all of their materials had that same consistency through the secondary graphics. In all of these materials, we see fewer sloping elements, and we see some inconsistency within their imagery. Here we have a more saturated, natural lighted photo versus these desaturated and grayscale elements. And this is where secondary graphics really come in. They're a strong tool to take elements of your logo and plaster them all over your other elements sparingly, do so strategically, but it helps tie together a brand's cohesivity. These are some of the new graphics that were designed in-house, but also designed by the Solace Media team. And we see some lines playing on the main logo shape. We see some circular elements, and we see these rounded corners all throughout their new website. Speaking of their website, this is what you will see as soon as you enter their website as a visitor. It's what I call the door of their website. This is the website hero section. And if the logo is the welcome mat, the door and the hero section and the call to action is the door and the doorbell. This is the opportunity for a visitor to engage with your platform, organization, business, or service. And it's very important for this to be very clear and to stand out on your hero section. We see here a pretty significant difference in their before and their after. Their before does feature the people that they serve, but they're a little hidden behind this text. It's a little too desaturated, and the call to action is a little unclear. What we changed is we highlighted their purpose and why they stand out within their industry. And we also provided a very clear call to action so that hopefully more visitors on their website engage with their amazing services. Finally, I would like to go over some common challenges that I see within branding and visual identity. The first and foremost is proper logo formatting. This is a personal pet peeve of mine. I hate it when I see a beautiful logo or a beautiful organization that has a grainy logo. For me, that doesn't display the kind of authenticity and respect that they ought to have. And a very clean, very clear fix for that is to use an SVG file. If you don't know what that is, ask your designer, ask your media team. Hopefully you have an SVG file for your logo. But it is a it is a scalable vector graphic. And it is by and large the best format for your logo so that you will never lose quality. The second challenge that I often see is an unclear call to action. So the purpose is to direct your visitor to a single next step within your hero section. And if this is unclear, like I mentioned, you will be losing some of your visitors. They will be bouncing within those 0.55 seconds. So if you don't feature a clear call to action, I strongly encourage you to do so that you have more individuals engaging with your platform and hopefully partnering with your organization or business. The final challenge that I oftentimes see is inconsistency within branding. And the solution to that is to create a guide for your visual identity and consistently audit your materials. The purpose of a guide for your visual identity is to have a home base, a collection, and a bit of a rule book for how you operate visually. This will contain your logos, your colors and type, your secondary graphics, and your imagery. And you can reference this piece of material just so that everything new that you create will be up to par and will be consistent with your previous materials. And obviously falling in line with your core purpose and presenting that to your audience. Secondly, you can audit your materials, your existing materials, just to make sure that everything is consistent. And if they're not, go back to that brand guide, redesign them, because consistency throughout your brand is extremely important when it comes to displaying your purpose. It provides some of that boost in authenticity. It provides a bit of that boost in your mission. It makes what you do and how you do it a little more clear, which really is the heart of branding. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this seminar. At this point, we will welcome any and all questions. Please put them in the Q&A section below, and I will be turning things over to Natasha. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Alex. So I'm going to go ahead and field the questions that we have today. The first question that we have, or one of the questions that we have, is from Peter Joyner. He asks, what are the first steps I should take to audit and improve my current brand identity?
First steps. I would say, look at what you've got. So within your audit, I would compile the elements that you do have. Obviously, for me, the most important is that welcome mat. So take a look at your logo and note any challenges that you see within it. From there, I would just look at every piece that you do have. And I don't know if you have a media team, if you work with a third-party designer or any of the other design solutions out there. But for me, an audit involves a lot of collaboration with an expert. So whether this means doing it yourself or bringing someone on to do it for you and with you, you ought to take a look at your logo first.
Great. Thank you so much, Alex. Next, we have a question from Jameson Oliver. Do you use a mobile device or a laptop or a computer for design?
That depends. So if I don't know, at a boring dinner with friends, I will be designing on my cell phone. Not to diss my friends or anything, but I'm constantly looking at trendy design, successful industry examples, or just beautiful art. My background as an artist is, an appreciator of art. So I really make art on whatever works for me. I recommend you do design, or at least take a look at your designs on mobile, because we here at Solace Media, we really emphasize mobile responsiveness. This is where most of your audience is going to be taking a look at your organization and engaging with you. So whether or not you design using a laptop or a cell phone, it's good to look at your designs on all screen sizes. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was good. Thank you so much, Alex. Now we have a question from Laura Evans with Redeem Ministries. If our logo is not in SVG, how can we fix that?
Good question. There are a lot of free platforms out there. If you just look up SVG file converter, you can oftentimes just upload your logo and get an SVG file that's done automatically for you. And this is also common within like your Adobe suite, like Adobe Illustrator as a design tool. They'll have one of those tools that can convert an image to a vector file. But beware, it's not perfect, especially if you already have a grainy logo. It might not be the highest quality. It might not place the lines exactly where they need to be. So at that point, if you have a very grainy logo that you can't automate as an SVG, I would recommend reaching out to a designer. And it's pretty quick work, unless you have a super complicated logo, which for a functioning logo shouldn't be super complicated. It should be a pretty straightforward process.
Great. And Alex, what is the recommended software to engage with for design? Like
Um,
Canva, what do you think about Canva? Okay, so that's a separate question for me, because I know a lot of people are
Good
wondering
question.
that question. But let's go with first, what's your recommended software to engage with? And then I'll ask my question about Canva.
My favorite design software is Adobe. I just grew up using Adobe. Have very efficient workflows using Adobe, but I could nerd out about design software for a while. I know if I'm collecting imagery, I'll oftentimes be on Behance, which is a product of Adobe, but it's more of like a hub for artists and designers to share their work and appreciate others' work. But you can't go wrong with Adobe.
Perfect. And then what's your take on Canva?
My take on Canva is that I don't use it. I have nothing against Canva. I know some graphic designers, brand designers, etc. They've got this beef with Canva. They feel like it's a poor quality design tool, but it's not whatsoever. I think if you know how to use it and if you understand fundamental design aspects, you can use it as an incredible tool, just like you can use Adobe. It's not as comprehensive, it's not as robust, but it's certainly an incredible tool that makes art and design accessible to more people. And for me as an artist, with a mission of serving my community and helping others serve their communities, the question is this an effective tool to use to further your mission? And if you don't have an in-house designer, then yeah, if you've just got a person on your media team who appreciates art and communication and who wants to read a couple books about effective design, then like, yeah, use Canva, use it as an incredible tool.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. I know a lot of people don't have somebody that knows Adobe well, and so they have to rely on Canva, especially for some of the nonprofit organizations that we have here. So thank you for answering that question. The next question is from Bush John. What are the main strategies that you use when creating a logo?
Oh, good question. So my strategy when it comes to a logo, obviously I'll fall back to my previous answer and I'll emphasize the purpose of an organization as well as recognizing who you're presenting yourself to. An effective logo demonstrates some depth in what you do, whether that's how you do it, whether that's, I don't know, the exceptional quality by which you do it. Um, but it also takes into account who will be or who must be receptive to this imagery. So for me, the strategy involves a lot of market research, figuring out what kind of people you're trying to target and how they respond to visuals, and then creating visuals that speak to that core demographic.
Okay, great. Alex, I'm not sure if you answered this question, but can you answer again? If not, can you recommend any tools for creating professional looking visual content on a budget?
On a budget. Um, I'd recommend reaching out within your community. I know that there are a lot of young artists and designers out here, especially in the age of Canva, with these accessible tools to create art. It's not like back in the day when you need an entire letterpress studio or you need a giant drafting table and a billion rulers. Like if you have a laptop, you can create designs to further your mission. Um, so obviously, all of you do great work and you do it very well. And it won't be too difficult to find young people who are excited about your causes. So I would reach out to your local community centers. I would reach out to your local art and design institutions or colleges that have an art program. You can ask the experts there if they have any recommendations on young people who might charge a little less due to their inexperience or people who are trying to bolster their portfolios. But yeah, reach out to your community. I'm sure there are some exceptional young folks who would make good work for you guys.
Perfect. And we have our last question here before I'm going to kick it back to Roberta. This is from Winston Jason. He's asking, what can you say about color combinations when designing? Tell us a little bit more about your color.
Yeah, so I color is a fundamental aspect of branding. It's a fundamental aspect of really any work of art. Um, I'd say my 2 cents on color combinations is I emphasize contrast for accessibility purposes. A mission of mine, personally, as an artist, is for the art that I make and the designs that I make to be accessible to everyone. So for the visually impaired, this looks like having bright colors on dark colors or dark colors on bright colors, um, and making those color combinations pop with high contrast. Um, Beyond that, I'd say I'm partial to earthy tones if you're inquiring about my personal taste, but that's just because, like Sunny mentioned, I'm a nature buff, and I appreciate all of those like ecological touch points.
Thank you so much, Alex. You have done a fantastic job in just sharing your expertise and skill set. I don't know if you all caught that in the beginning, but we had a picture of Alex with a mural and he actually designed that. So he is great on paper and digitally. And so we are just so blessed to have him as a part of our team.
That is it for today. Everybody, stay tuned for your emails for our next month's webinar and what that's going to be on to help you make a bigger impact. Thank you for making the world a better place and for your time. And I wish everyone a fantastic day.